Welcome to part 2 of Islamic claims on women in the Bible. If you haven't already, check out part 1 for context. In part 1, we looked at the Bible verses our Muslim friend at the _loyal_1 provided in an attempt to establish his claim that women in the Bible are the slaves of their husbands. Now we're going to look at the Quran verses he used to contrast those Bible verses. Shall we? First up, Surah 9 verse 71. The believing men, believing women are allies of one another. And we'll stop there. As stated in the beginning of part 1, ally isn't the same as equal. To be an ally merely connotes that you are in cooperation with someone or something. His conclusion, therefore, that women in Islam are not the slaves of their husbands must have come from another verse. The second appeal he makes to the Quran is Surah 33 verse 35. Indeed, the Muslim men and Muslim women yada 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 yada. Again, this verse does not say anything about the equality between men and women, only that Allah is forgiving and He rewards good behavior. Looks like we need further input, my dude. Not to worry, I got you. I'm going to make 2 statements, and then I'm going to provide the evidence for those statements. And then you're all going to tell me that I've taken everything out of context because I am not an Arabic-speaking Muslim. All in good fun. First statement, women are inferior to men. Second statement, women are the property of men. Ooh. So, Islam teaches that women are inferior to men. The verses up on your screen now prove that women in Islam are regarded as second-rate creatures, not at all comparable to men. When calling witnesses, worst case scenario, if you cannot find 2 men, you need 1 man and 2 women. Because 2 women equal 1 man. Because women are half of a man in intellect. And with regards to your children's inheritance, we see a clear distinction between what the daughter is worth and what the son is worth. To the male goes a portion equal to that of 2 females, meaning 1 son is worth 2 females. From these 2 verses, we see that women are inferior in both worth and intellect. This is something Muhammad is recorded to have believed. Sahih al-Bukhari narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Once Allah's apostle went out to the Musalla to offer prayer, yada yada. He passed by the women and said, "O women, give alms, as I have seen that the majority of the dwellers of hellfire were you women." He says, "I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you. A cautious, sensible man could be led astray by some of you." The women asked, "O Allah's apostle, what is deficient in our intelligence and religion?" He said, "Is not the evidence of 2 women equal to the witness of 1 man? This is the deficiency in her intelligence." He goes on, "Isn't it true that a woman can neither pray nor fast during her menses? This is the deficiency in her religion." There is more. Narrated by the same dude. The Prophet said, "Isn't the witness of a woman equal to half of that of a man?" The women said, "Yes." He said, "This is because of the deficiency of a woman's mind." So he's making an indirect reference to Surah 2 verse 282, the verse we read in the beginning. His own interpretation of that verse establishes the case that the reason 2 women are required to testify in the place of 1 man is because they are intellectually inferior to men. And the reason for their deficiency in religion is due to their biology, which is strange because that would mean that God made them to be deficient in religion and intellect. Why would He do that? It's like He's just making it impossible for women to be godly. So this is why hell is full of women, according to Muhammad. Let's look at a couple more. Surah 4 verse 34. Men are in charge of women, because Allah hath made one to excel the other. As for those from whom ye fear rebellion, admonish them and banish them to beds apart, and scourge them or beat them. So men are in charge of women, and furthermore they have the right to beat them if they fear rebellion from them. In other words, if a woman begins to show that she has a mind of her own and her own desires and wants something other than what her husband wants, he has the right to beat her. Yeah. All because Allah has created men to excel women. This is proved over and over again. The hadiths unashamedly confirm this point, as you can see in the examples I've included in the description box. I will read one of them to you here. In the earliest Muslim biography, the Surat Rasul Allah, Ibn Ishaq affirms the right to beat. You have rights over your wives and they have rights over you. You have the right that they should not defile your bed and that they should not behave with open unseemliness. If they do, God allows you to put them in separate rooms and beat them, but not with severity. Oh, how kind. If they refrain from these things, they have the right to their food and clothing with kindness, implying that the husband has the right to withhold food and clothing from their wives if they disagree with them. Lay injunctions on women kindly, for they are prisoners with you, having no control over their persons. Yes. This and the further narrations in the description box state that not only can women be beaten for their rebellion, but that they are the prisoners of their husbands. Interesting how the criticism the loyal one made about Christianity and women in Christianity is actually true of his own religion. All of this explains Muhammad's statement that the best women are those who obey their husbands' demands. After all, good prisoners are the ones who obey any and all commands of their wardens. Muhammad himself hit his child bride Aisha. She says, "He struck me on the chest, which caused me pain." Even Muhammad's son-in-law and first cousin Ali ibn Abu Talib didn't hesitate to beat women up, such as Aisha's slave girl. He says women are plentiful, and you can easily change one for another. He even gives a demonstration. So the apostle called Buraira to ask her, and Ali got up and gave her a violent beating. Ali gave her a violent beating to prove a point. The point that women are plentiful, and you can easily change one for another. There was even one Muslim who was known as a great beater of women. I don't know if that was a compliment or just a matter-of-fact title. The story goes that a woman named Fatima approached Muhammad, having been divorced by her husband. 3 other men had proposed marriage to her. One was a poor man who had no property and really nothing to offer. One was Abu Jam, about which Muhammad says he is a great beater of women. And then we had Usama, who Fatima really didn't like and didn't want to marry. Muhammad convinced her to marry him since he was probably the best option if she didn't want to be poor or beaten. So let's get this straight. Instead of reprimanding Abu Jam for being a great beater of women, Muhammad just discourages Fatima from marrying him. Either he was afraid of this man, or he saw nothing really wrong with it, but he liked Fatima and thought, you know what, it's best you don't marry him. Finally, let's look at Sunan Abu Dawud, narrated Thawban. The Prophet said, "If any woman asks her husband for a divorce without some strong reason, the odor of paradise will be forbidden to her." We could explore many examples of divorce and a woman's obligation to her husband, none of which are in favor of the woman, but let's just focus on this narration before we move on to the second statement. Notice 2 things. A man can divorce his wife, no problem. A woman must get the permission of her husband in order to divorce her husband. And she must have a strong reason to do so. Otherwise, she's cut off from paradise. Which is another way of saying that it's either up to her husband or the Muslim authority to decide whether her feelings and her request is valid. Second statement, women are the property of men. Since the Quran asserts that women are not equal to men in value nor in worth, in intellect and religion, it really shouldn't come as a surprise to learn that women are the property of men. Here is my all-time fave. Surah 2, 223. Your women are a tillage for you, so come unto your tillage as you wish. The hadiths further inform us of how Allah and his angels feel about a woman's refusal to her husband's entry in her how and when he wishes. Sahih al-Bukhari, narrated Abu Huraira. Muhammad said, if a husband calls his wife to bed, i.e. to have sex, and she refuses and causes him to go to sleep in anger, the angels will curse her till morning. He also says that Allah is displeased with her until her husband is pleased. with her. We all know what that's code for. Basically, a woman is nothing without her husband. In this super extensive debate among Muslim scholars over whether anal sex is permitted, the question is always whether a man ought to do it or not whether or not the woman likes or wants it. Whether the husband is allowed to commit this act on his wife completely depends on Allah, Muhammad, or the companions and commentators' opinions, but not on the wife. Another strong evidence that Islam does not honour women, but degrades them. The comment about women being a tillage for men. We don't really use that word very much. Let's define it. Tillage, or tilth, refers to the cultivation of land, the condition of tilled soil, especially in respect to suitability for sowing seeds. This implies that Muhammad viewed women as nothing more than breeders, that their real value was in their ability to give birth. Otherwise, they were basically useless. Let's turn to Surah 3, verse 14. The love of desires of women and sons and hoarded treasures of gold and silver and well-bred horses and cattle and tilth is made to seem fair to men. This is the provision of the life of this world, and Allah is He with whom is the good goal of life. Muhammad placed women on a list of things that men desire and own. Sahih al-Bukhari narrated Aisha, the things which annul the prayers were mentioned before me. They said, prayer is annulled by a dog, a donkey, and a woman if they pass in front of the praying people. Abu Dar reported, the Messenger of Allah said, when any one of you stands for prayer and there is a thing before him equal to the back of the saddle that covers him, and in case there is not before him a thing equal to the back of the saddle, his prayer would be cut off by passing of an ass, woman, and black dog. Apparently the black dog is a devil. Side note, Muhammad was a racist who believed that Satan was a black man. Do what you want with that. To add insult to injury, Muhammad advised men to pray for protection from women, slaves, and camels. Narrated Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-Az. The Prophet said, if one of you marries a woman or buys a slave, he should say, O Allah, I thank thee for the good in her and in the disposition thou hast given her. I take refuge in thee from the evil in her and in the disposition thou hast given her. When he buys a camel, he should take hold of the top of its hump and say the same kind of thing, 'cause it's the same. What about the evil in men? Where is Muhammad's exhortation for women to pray for protection, to seek refuge in Allah from the evil of men? Muhammad went further. He told Muslims to seize their wives' foreheads, much like they do to their slaves and animals, and pray for the good which they gain from them and against the evil inherent in them. So there is inherent evil in women, and men ought to protect themselves via prayer against that inherent evil in women, slaves, and animals. But there is no prayer for women to be protected from the evil of men. Why give this instruction, this right, this protection to men only? I know, because women are inferior to men. Men excel women. Women are the property of men. Men are in charge of them. Women are their prisoners. And we haven't even gotten into the necessity for women to cover themselves up so as to avoid arousing the men who themselves are absolutely objectified by their own religion, reduced to beasts of violence and lust. It's not my opinion, that's Muhammad. Nor do we have time to explore the super interesting concept of mutta. Another time perhaps. So to men, is this a dream come true? Or are you absolutely mortified by the blatant objectifying of women? And women, would you rather be living in an Islamic state or a Western country? Or would you just rather not be a Muslim because Islam doesn't care about you? You are a second-rate creature. You are inferior to Muslim men, regardless of the westernized appropriations of Islam. You tilth. As someone who is not a Muslim, who was not indoctrinated into Islam growing up, reading the Quran, reading the Hadiths, learning about Islam, specifically about women in Islam, I'm always left with the question, why? Why is it of eternal importance to us today to be thoroughly informed of Muhammad's sexcapades, about how he had sex with all 9 of his wives in one night, about how his child bride Aisha spent much of her day washing and scraping semen stains off his clothes, Be sure to check out part 1 if you haven't yet. Remember, offense is the devil's tool. Don't be a tool. Debate, don't hate. If you don't know, my name is Christ Defender. I defend the Christian faith. I answer questions and criticisms of Christianity.